I got a really large skillet here. It doesn't need to be nonstick because we're going to make a mushroom gravy. Now, if you don't want to make a mushroom gravy, completely ignore this part. But I kind of like a mushroom gravy. So we're going to get the pan stupid hot. We want evaporation to start as soon as they hit the pan. So I'm looking for smoke. We got the shimmering already, right? Oil starts to shimmer and then at some point it starts to smoke. So now I can see the smoke. Trust me on this, I see the smoke. And that's all you need. I've got the mushrooms. I just gave them a rough, coarse chop. You don't want to do like a really fine chop, and just stick them in there. Get some salt on there. Okay, now, as you can see, the mushrooms have released all their water, right? So at this point, I like to add a little bit of white wine for the acid and some Madeira for the flavor. Now, this is not as sweet as, say, like a cream sherry or something like that. You can use a dry sherry if you want. You can even use port if you want. Don't skimp when it comes to Madeira. Go ahead and get the real Madeira. I'm going to let it reduce a little bit, but I'm not going to cook it until it's totally dry. I'm just going to let it reduce by, I don't know, about half or so. And then I'm going to move it aside and we'll start the gravy. What we're going to be doing today for our purposes is we're going to be making a brown, or what is referred to sometimes as a peanut butter roux. There's no peanut butter in it. It's just because it ends up looking like the color of peanut butter. But what you end up starting with for this one is butter. You can use oil, you can use lard, you can use duck fat, you can use whatever you want. Now, this looks like a lot of butter, and it is. And then we have 1 cup, so equal amounts, or 16 tablespoons of just all-purpose flour. I always like the way that looks when it goes in. Isn't that cool? Now, it's important when you're doing roux is to keep it going. Now, this will take a little bit of time, but you can't rush it. And at one point, it'll start to brown a lot faster. And you can see that is peanut butter. At that point, just add it in there. Oop. Give it a whisk around to make sure that there's no roux stuck on the bottom. And then reduce the heat just a little bit, so that way you don't have to stand here constantly. But you do want to whisk it frequently because you still have flour in here. And you run the risk, right, anytime you've got flour in anything, liquid like this, of scorching on the bottom of the pot. So I'm going to bring this to a boil and I'm going to be whisking it frequently. And then at that point, I'll see what the consistency is like, and then we'll correct if needed. Okay, the gravy's come to a boil, rolling boil, and you can check the consistency, right? That's like a really nice sauce consistency, right? That's absolutely, for me anyway, perfect for a sauce. But for gravy, you want it a little thicker. At this point, start skimming. And it's important though to let this cook. Not just because it's thickened and come to a boil doesn't mean it's done. So you got to make sure that this cooks long enough for all those little granules of flour to pretty much explode and absorb as much liquid as they can. It will get thicker as we go on, but I'm letting you know now, because at this point, because we are using mushrooms, I'm going to put mushrooms in at this point. That way the mushrooms and the gravy have time to, you know, network and mingle and get to know each other and hang out. And what is it? The sum is larger than its parts. You don't want to put them in at the very end. Just put that in there. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to put the lid on it, and I'm going to let that simmer for about a half hour. And at that point, it's pretty much done. The only thing you need to do is check for the consistency, and if it's thick enough, great. If it's not, we just add a little bit of potato starch and we're ready to serve.